What's up? Hey, Antonio, can you hear me? No, one sec. It might be my audio. No, it should be good. Can you check your audio on your end? All right, can you hear me, Antonio? Man, I wonder why I can't hear you. Let's see. Audio, speakers. All right. Can you try one more time? I just switched over my speaker. Yeah, man. Here we go. Now it should be good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, man. You sound great. You look great. So
Fantastic.
pumped to talk to you, man. This has been like 3 weeks in the making. So appreciate you taking an hour.
Of course. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and thanks for experimenting with me too, man. So this is going to be a new experience for the both of us. I've traditionally done a lot of these conversations, almost 100 now on Zoom. This is the first one on StreamYard because we're going to be posting the content more on YouTube and other platforms. So the quality is going to be much better. So I don't know if you and I personally are going to look better and less pixelated. We'll see. I hope so. But
I hope so too. This is great so
yeah,
far.
yeah. So before we get into everything, this I want this time to be for you. I want it to be an awesome time for you. So is there like maybe anything specific that you want me to make sure to ask about or to cover or anything like that?
Um, no, I think, would love to just chat about AI, keep it casual like we talked about, and see what you're seeing out there in the market, what I'm seeing out there in the market. And then, maybe towards the end or the beginning, we can talk about, yeah, some of the successes that we've seen on within our business, and like at least what we're hearing from customers so far on how AI is impacting them, and getting some concrete results, which is great.
Yes, let's go. Yeah, I saw your post about the customer, hopefully plural customers you're going to be onboarding
Yeah.
here. So I can't even imagine all the different things that you guys are doing right now. So I definitely want to ask about those. Also, too, in addition to what you just shared, which we'll definitely cover, I thought it might be really interesting since on the last LinkedIn Live, it wasn't just you and I. There was another founder, Mati. We didn't really get to cover like who you are
Sure.
and what you're up to, like, and how this kind of all unraveled. So I'd like to get into that as well because people like to know, you know, I want more people to know the trials of an entrepreneur and a founder, the reality. In this hustle culture, I feel like a lot of it is like masked by success, but I know that it's not always like that. So, would love to get into that, but yeah, can definitely cover that. Timing wise, we'll be done before the hour. Um, Dude, sound is fantastic. These will be the clips. We're gonna chop this up and we'll post shorts and we'll post this on YouTube as well. And I'll share it with folks as well. And also, this may or may not be live right now on the podcast LinkedIn page. So people may or may not be listening live. It's the first time, so I'm experimenting. So just keep that in mind. I can't access it on LinkedIn now, so because I'm in the StreamYard platform. But
Yeah.
so yeah,
Well,
so
would love to know too. Is the logo showing up correctly or flipped?
actually, I really like it. No, it's solid.
Okay. Yeah, because sometimes with the camera flip and things just show up a little bit differently, but a lot it's working.
Have you tested your QR codes yet?
Man, back in the day, I don't think I can. Let me see here.
How cool would that be if someone could just scan?
Let's
not to try them out. But no,
Sometimes
man.
I put my email in there just because sometimes it
Yeah,
works
yeah.
too.
Smart, smart, smart. All right, this man knows how to market. Let's go.
So,
I love it, man. It's great because I know that there are people in procurement right now who, I mean, I wish I could just open up my inbox and show you the people who are interested in AI that are in procurement is huge. I mean, it's
yeah,
like managers, it's sourcing, it's even chief procurement officers, et cetera. So everyone's trying to figure this out. So um, that's great. I'm going to do an official welcome. I'm going to say who I am, and then I'm going to open it up. I'm going to open it up and just ask you to share a little bit about who you are
sure.
as well, and then we'll dive right into what's going on at Procuro and your story. All right, great. Anything else like that's top of mind or anything before we get going?
No, so it sounds like I'll give it just a brief intro, and then you'll probably just ask about the journey. Sounds like, and you want to get more of like the detail of how we got here and like what's driving us, and then yeah, would love to then talk about you mentioned all the procurement people. It's like, hey, what are we seeing and what are we hearing from customers from our sales conversations and how that's affecting them, and then and then we can just take it from there and then talk about AI possibilities, things like that, and what we're seeing as tangible like business outcomes. I think that's a big the big theme that I'm hearing and I would love to touch on is really like what are the real business outcomes that AI is driving versus what's hype, right? What is the hype around AI versus what is actually being delivered on those promises? So I think having that conversation is always fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great place to start, don't you think?
Yeah.
Because there's so much content out there. There was a procurement director the other day was messaging me saying like how how hard it is to keep up with all the updates that are going on with AI.
Yeah.
So um yeah, and yeah, that sounds fantastic. Can definitely do that. Yeah, I'll tee you up to share a little bit about you, and obviously we'll clip this beginning part for the podcast when it's published, and it'll start right at the beginning. So yes, fingers crossed for better sound as well. I think we had some issues with that last time, but again, hey, bootstrap founders, just figuring this out. So here we go.
Trying to figure it out, man.
Learning to fly the airplane, while it's in the air. Um, so, all right, fantastic. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the AI Negotiator podcast. Today, you're going to meet Antonio, the CEO and co-founder of Procuro. They are really mixing things up in the procurement space. They're an AI-driven company. I'm Shane Ray Martin. I'm a founder. I'm an AI researcher. Really fortunate to be a top voice on negotiation on LinkedIn, and I love technology, and I especially have a special place in my heart for founders, and I'm confident that you will too for Antonio after this conversation. So, Antonio, welcome to the show. Tell us real quick, who you are and what you're up to with Procuro right now.
Hey, Shane. Great to see you again. Yeah, so I'm Antonio Goncalves. A little bit about me. I was originally born in Brazil, moved around a lot growing up, and then I currently live in Miami where I did high school, went to college in Atlanta at Georgia Tech where I studied mechanical engineering, and then went off to go do procurement at Anheuser-Busch and Microsoft. And so had a great time there, and then eventually took the leap to go build my own company with one of my best friends from college. And that's what we're doing now. At Procuro, we're automating post-signature contract management for procurement teams with AI. And so we're super passionate and excited about what AI can bring to really core function of the business, especially within strategic sourcing teams, within sourcing and procurement teams. So happy to be here and help answer any questions.
Yes, so glad that you're here. And man, I've got a whole Rolodex of questions. So let's get into it. But before we do, if you're in procurement, you're probably feeling, we were just talking about this, you're probably feeling like or asking yourself the question, how can I use AI? How can I embed AI? This is a question basically everyone in procurement's asking at this point. So go to procuro.ai and check out what they're doing. And if you're doing a lot of contracts, go check out Procuro.ai and just reach out to them. You can just fill out a quick little form and connect with their team. Super friendly, super awesome. And Antonio, what a ride! Like, what a ride coming from these two companies, Anheuser-Busch, big, Microsoft, obviously one of the biggest companies in the world. And now you're living this sort of different life as a founder. It's a totally, it's a shift. It's a shift. And I know that you moved to Miami as well. But I didn't know that you're from Brazil. That's amazing. So Miami is is kind of like Brazil climate wise. So I mean, this is probably you're probably enjoying it. But can you tell us about that experience that you had at Anheuser-Busch and Microsoft and why you started Procuro?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at Anheuser-Busch, it was super early in career. I was working mostly around commodities, and that was a really interesting space. That's where I first learned about e-procurement, e-bids, and all of those different strategies to be able to extract the most amount of value from your suppliers. And then when I went to Microsoft, I was on the strategic sourcing team in the devices group. And so there, it was a completely different experience. So at Anheuser-Busch, it was more commodities, corn, barley, wheat, those kinds of things. And then at Microsoft, my experience was around more of those technical direct materials that were critical for the devices business. So I was specifically sourcing the display for the Surface products. And so with that comes a lot of technical know-how that you need to understand, which is why they usually actually hire engineers to be able to do the sourcing function, not necessarily anybody from a business background, although we did have some folks from there. They always prioritize a lot of engineers. The reason for that is you needed to have that technical know-how, the experience to be able to converse with the engineering team, with your suppliers, and be able to have that experience in order to be able to negotiate pricing, understand the market, understand the technical requirements of whatever good you were sourcing. And so that was an incredible experience. And I really started to see the more strategic aspect of sourcing where, my biggest insight there was most of the cost savings, most of the benefit that you can get out of a whole sourcing process is before you sign anything. It's before you even get a quote from a supplier. It's all of the pre-work that you're able to do, understanding your current supply base, understanding what else is available out there really gives you that edge in order to be able to source what you need effectively. And so that really led me towards really loving and falling in love with the strategic aspect of sourcing rather than just purchasing. And so that really is what landed me to then start looking at AI and how AI can affect that part of the business. When we first started this, we always wanted to do something more strategic versus something more tactical, like a P2P system or an ERP system, where things are just information is flowing and there's a ton of competition. We wanted to really explore what AI unlocks on the strategic aspect of sourcing. And our greater vision is just to be able to bring more strategic capabilities to smaller companies. Sometimes only the bigger companies that have those resources to focus on strategic aspects of sourcing are able to get those benefits. We want to empower smaller teams to be able to also get the benefits of a full strategic sourcing team in order to reap those benefits as well.
So good. It's so good. And it's awesome that you have both of those previous experiences because you are, naturally are probably able to apply those as you're building out something that maybe that you wish that you had when you were in those roles. Like that's what like that's what the best founder stories are, is they are building something that they're solving a problem that they had themselves personally. So that empathy there can be huge. But for procurement folks who maybe don't have an electrical engineering background or any sort of engineering background, and they're trying to figure out AI, can you make AI a little bit like, can you simplify it for someone in procurement who's trying to just understand what it can actually do for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it's super important for us to make a distinction between the analytical AI, which most people were familiar with before as machine learning, and the generative AI, which is the new capabilities that we're seeing with large language models. And so, I think it's important to keep in mind that AI has been around for quite a long time. on the machine learning side of things. And so that's more your traditional spend analytics, inventory analysis, inventory analytics that most tools already had capabilities around. So even some of the incumbents that have been around for quite a while had full machine learning teams that could deliver a ton of value on the machine learning side. And then you have the new AI, which is essentially these generative models that unlock new capabilities around language. And so I think to be able to ground the conversation, we constantly think about, and the reason we went into contract management is really we took a step back and tried to understand what is AI good at today and what is it excel at today. And most of that is language. And so anything that deals with communication, with actual like written text, that's where those large language models are really going to be able to excel today. And so I think for anybody considering using AI or thinking about using AI within their business, it's really taking a step back and understanding, hey, what are the problems I have today that fit within this domain of language, within the domain of communication, within the domain of written text. And that's where you'll be able to see and find a lot of the opportunities that the new AI models are capable of. Now, there's always the opportunities in terms of machine learning on, data, big data sets, and understanding connections between things, recommendation engines. All of those are more of the traditional machine learning benefits. And so it's just understanding AI can really benefit a lot of things, but it's understanding, hey, what is traditional machine learning good at? What is the new large language models good at? And then also there's a ton of opportunities where both of them come together. And so there are aspects of the machine learning that you can apply into large language models and vice versa, where large language models are also unlocking a lot of new capabilities that machine learning typically had a hard time with. And so that's what's super exciting. And like, it's just going back to the problem and understanding, hey, what are you suffering with the most? Where is the most value to be extracted from your day-to-day work? And then focusing on that and seeing where AI is good at today to be able to apply it in that section.
It's funny because we, as a problem solver, a lot of people in procurement are natural problem solvers. They want to be valuable, and generally, most people in procurement are candidly like phenomenal humans. So they want to drive these outcomes. They want to have an impact. They want a seat at the table, and they should get one. But these problems that you're talking about, like from Procuro's perspective and from what you guys specifically do, and think from a contracting flow perspective, what problems are you specifically solving if someone onboards to Procuro tomorrow? Like, what
Yeah.
do they not have to worry about anymore?
Yeah, I think what we're most excited about, and a lot of our conversations with leaders really come down to one single problem that all leaders are really struggling with today, which is data. There's company initiatives, massive investments in companies to be able to improve their data. And so when you think about data, I think most people think at from a ERP perspective, their inventory data, their spend data. What Procuro really unlocks is your unstructured data. And so your unstructured data really comes from your contracts. We really strongly believe that your contracts are the source of truth of what should happen. And so understanding that part of your data really is the proactive approach to then understanding and managing your business. Spend data is always after the fact. And so it's once the money has left your accounts, has already been booked. And so it's harder for you to actually take proactive measures once the money leaves your account. And so for us, the concrete and simple thing that Procuro does is we unlock your contract data, and then we provide actionable insights on how to improve your sourcing and your procurement process by being able to have that data, one, extremely transparent. And so you're able to access that data quickly and accurately. And then finally, we leverage AI to be able to then give you insights on top of that data that today would take months, if not like months, to be able to actually get those insights out of hundreds, if not thousands of contracts. And so we've already helped folks be able to get a grip on that, and we can show value on day one. Give us one contract and we're able to get all of the data that you need out of that contract. We're able to give you actionable insights with step-by-step instructions on actually how to get the value that we found from your contract. And so teams are already seeing a ton of value from that.
Wow. So okay, so let's try to take this. Let's try to. I mean, what you just described, I should have asked that at the beginning, because that's the money, that's the clip right there. It's awesome. It's like, tell me if this is a fair sort of visual or a characterization of like what Procuro does, and the problem it's solving. Is it like you're bringing in all the contracts, let's say for a procurement team or a sourcing team, and then putting them all in one spot, and then a procurement person can simply just search for certain terms or clauses and get it instantly? And then on top of that, you're able to tell them like, hey, you can improve this contract by doing XYZ because of the AI that's sitting on top. Is that the right way to look at it? Or how should someone like practically see what you just shared?
Yeah. So, and this also gets into why startups will win, which I think is such a interesting like conversation to be had, because we constantly hear like, hey, Microsoft's coming out with these products, OpenAI is coming out with these products, and so there's always a question of why is a startup going to win? Why are you differentiated from those? And so we have a strong conviction where verticalized AI products are going to be the real value add for companies. And so to make it super tangible on the value is, one, it's exactly what you just mentioned, which we are able to centralize and streamline all of your contracts from one location. So you have one source of truth across your entire business with access controls to whoever needs and requires access to be able to see and work with those contracts. So that's one. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. And so that's where you being able to aggregate all of that information in one place, that's where then you can just customize what you need to be able to do your day-to-day work. So the tangible aspect there of why startups are going to win is startups will bring expertise for a particular domain that the horizontal companies just won't be able to give you. And so the classic example, and actually something we've heard from a customer, which is, Microsoft went to them and to pitch them a similar product in terms of, hey, we can bring all of your contracts together and then you can ask any questions to your contract. Now, our view is, hey, being able to ask any question to your contract is step one. Step two, and where you actually differentiate and actually create business value, is when the product knows what to ask. And so it's not necessarily about being able to ask any questions. It's about asking the right question. And you want a tool and you want a product that gives you a nudge and understands your data, and then is able to proactively ask the right questions so that your team doesn't have to worry about that. How that manifests in our product specifically is we do a specialized procurement specific analysis of each term of your contract, looking for three areas: cost saving opportunities, risk reduction opportunities, and automation opportunities. And so, when Microsoft comes in and gives you the ability to ask any question, the real question is Procuro is giving you the right questions to ask, because we have the procurement expertise. We know where the actual value is created. It's not on any question, it's on the right question. And so that's where we believe systems and agents and all of that world will just get better and better. But verticalized startups that have expertise in a particular domain are going to be actually creating business value versus just throwing AI onto the mess of data that they already have.
Yeah, I really see a future where there's more startups in general, but more unicorns or high growth startups with less employees, because of what you just mentioned, these agents that are able to do the work of several people at once. And in a way, what Procuro is doing is, it's like, I see it as like a team of procurement, like it's like an additional team, like it's like a whole group of data analysts and analyzing your procurement data, that could be 30, 40 different salaries, but with this tool you can like get it all, like all, it sounds like instantly, and it's going to give you recommendations. What like what so you mentioned the first couple steps, like what, so will it ever, I'm obviously a fan of AI and love negotiation, something you and I have talked about before. Like, will Procuro ever like recommend certain things to say in conversations with suppliers, or is this always going to be like like sort of like an in-house sort of internal tool only?
I mean, I think we're always exploring different options and different functionality. The way we work with the tool today and the way it's providing value to teams today is essentially if you have a contract coming up in a month, 2 months, we give you a full report on all the opportunities and all the sections of the contract that you may want to go renegotiate, find cost saving opportunities, even reduce your overall risk if new regulations have come out, if anything has changed since the signature of the contract. Now, we won't go out and negotiate on your behalf, but we provide the teams with that information across all of their contracts. Most procurement teams today also operate on an 80-20 principle of, 80% of our spend comes from 20% of our suppliers. And so that's where we focus our efforts in. And then the rest of those suppliers just get left behind, and they call that tail spend. And so we're able to empower you to have even more visibility, more control, more negotiating power on the tail spend, because now you have that full visibility across your entire supply base. We do see a future where agents and different startups and products are interconnected, and there's a data flow. So although we'll be the experts on taking your unstructured contract data, analyzing it, giving you actionable insights on how to improve your risk, reduce your costs. We do see a future where we connect with a partner that then maybe has an AI that can go out and negotiate and do the back and forth with suppliers. And then that way, we're able to give that AI the insight and the know-how on how to do it for procurement specifically. Their AI will be specialized in the actual negotiation form, tactics and techniques that give you the best outcome and get both parties to a yes and to a win-win. And so that's how we see it. We want to specialize within data, specialize on contract information for procurement teams. We see a huge market for the day-to-day negotiations and the back and forth, which you're familiar with Pactum already doing a ton of interesting work there, and a lot of different new startups coming out, being able to do the actual day-to-day negotiations.
Yeah, I see. I'm glad that there's like you've given it some thought, and I know how easy it is as a founder to like chase the like shiny object, and like you have to be laser focused, and your no's are as important as your yeses. So respect for thinking about it, but not taking the bait, because you have to in a startup you have to like really focus on that value piece that you're describing. One of the things that I'm seeing that this might actually complement really nicely down the line is how much stress these procurement managers and directors are under. It's like they're running simultaneous contract renewals for what should be like three people, but there's only one of them. So they're overworked and usually under resourced. And imagine Procuro being able to put together even like a one pager preparation of like, all right, here's the contract you're about to negotiate, here are the top 5 interests of the other party, here are your interests ranked in order. Like even a little prep sheet could be something that's so dynamic and powerful that, again, that's another 10x sort of value item, because they don't have to spend 10 hours preparing, and you've just like unlocked a massive value. Because some people, there are some people who really, there are people who don't believe AI can help them that much in complex negotiations. And that is true now, but I don't think it necessarily will be true for long because of these innovations that we're talking about today. But I mean, it's fascinating because how many if we took an honest poll and said like how many times have you written down the interests of the other party before you go negotiate with them, probably like one person out of 500 would raise their hand. We just don't think about the other side enough because we're so busy worrying about our own, our own selves. And so it's fascinating what you guys are up to. I've got one more technical question. This idea of AI agents. AI agents are basically LLMs, multiple LLMs or multiple AIs doing the work for you. They communicate with each other, and it's insanely cool technology. And you've said in the past that this is where you see a big opportunity for AI, specifically in procurement with AI agents. Can you share your perspective on AI agents and how Procuro's leveraging them either now or going to in the future for procurement people?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, agents seems to be the direction where a lot of the new innovation, especially around startups and smaller companies, is going towards. So, what I'll say is, agents have just three fundamental pillars to them, and to keep it very simple, it's you have your foundational model, which is essentially the brain of the agent. You have your data, so your external data sources that you're able to augment and add more information so that the agent has a better understanding of the world around it, whether it's like current news, whether it's your own company internal data that isn't part of the foundational model. And then the last aspect of that is just tools. And tools can really be anything, but it's really just anything that can get that they can call on for help for additional actions that the agent can take. And so that's in a nutshell something the simple idea behind an agent. And so we are using agents across our entire stack. And actually, I do believe every LLM interaction that you work with today, even on consumer products, on even OpenAI's like even OpenAI's ChatGPT, it's an agent architecture that enables a lot of the interactions that you have. So even on the bare bones ChatGPT, if it realizes that it needs to do a web search, that's an agent interaction that you may not necessarily realize that is an agent interaction. And so agents are actually going to be the predominant interaction that folks will have with AI, not just the foundational model, which just powers those agents. And so how we see the world today really is, agents are just going to be pervasive across the entire stack. And most of the time you won't even see what the agent is doing. The tangible example that Procuro is doing with agents, for example, is on this contract analysis portion. We have an agent that we've prompted and pre-trained and fine-tuned to be able to assess and find cost-saving opportunities. And so that is a specialized agent that only looks for opportunities in that domain, so that they are the expert in that particular to be able to find those opportunities. And we have a separate agent for risk reduction, a separate agent for automation. And so when you give AIs and these foundational models specialized tasks, that's where you'll see a ton of value be created. And now it goes back to the sort of what we were talking about earlier, where startups are going to win and more vertical products are going to win, is in the way of you can only make an effective agent if you have domain expertise at your disposal to be able to craft and put that knowledge into an AI system that understands what to look for, what it needs, what its roles are, what its objectives are, what it needs to get done, and the job that needs to get done. And so, although Microsoft is going to be able to build the tooling to be able to for companies to go make those agents, it's only somebody that has deep procurement expertise that is going to know, what is bulk negotiating discounts? How do you achieve that? What are the methods to go do that? What are my options to reduce payment terms? Is it a benefit? Is it a negative? In what circumstances do I want to extend payment terms? In what circumstances do I want to reduce my payment terms? And so that's where you need the expertise to be able to build the AI systems. And so the LLMs are going to be the building blocks, but agents and the agent architectures are sort of just going to be the new algorithms. And so I think a lot of it in the future, you may be able to start seeing like patents come from and copyright come from agent architectures and how you string multiple AIs together for specific tasks.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Like what you just said, a cost saving agent. I mean, like that is it's groundbreaking. It's it makes perfect sense why these vertically aligned sort of organizations and startups specifically, like you said, are going to be able to hopefully grow and expand and impact because they're specific sort of solutions. And I even want to challenge us to even think bigger too, about not just an AI like point solution and solving like a specific problem, but how can Procuro create like a whole new way of doing procurement? Like, how can Procuro create a whole new system of agents that make procurement better? And I feel like that's where you're headed. And I also feel like that's where the most potential is like procurement doesn't have the way we buy things doesn't have to be the way, in 5 years doesn't have to be the way it is today. And it's almost like you guys are creating, you're kind of setting yourself up for that opportunity to like really disrupt a traditionally sort of non-techie sort of space. But that's obviously, that's not the case anymore. You talk with you talk with so many different customers. You're talking to investors, you're talking to a lot of folks who are focused in procurement, like, and you've worked in sourcing yourself and procurement. Like, what are people that you're hearing, what are they struggling with right now specifically? Is there anything, like any patterns that, other than the data piece that you mentioned, it's like, yeah, what are you hearing out in the market over and over?
Yeah, so that's a great question. What we keep hearing, one, there's a couple of like recurring themes that we hear from leaders. There's top down pressure to be able to incorporate AI into their function, into procurement, and leaders are kind of lost in what's hype, what's not hype, what is actually going to deliver business value. So you know Procuro, and this wasn't my job when I initially went out to go do a startup. I didn't realize this would be my job, but what it's becoming is really, we're sort of a guiding hand in this ocean of AI opportunity that leaders are looking for, and sort of just be able for us to give them a tangible result of like, hey, these are the outcomes for your business if you use an AI tool, not, hey, this AI tool can do all these different things. And so I think it's super critical for us for startups and for AI companies to really focus on the results. And AI is just the tool that we use to get to those results. So that's the first part. And then the second part, I actually talked about this recently with my CTO, which is what we hear a lot from companies is, and I believe this is something that consulting firms have preached to companies, which is with any digital transformation, you need to follow a people, process, technology approach. So you need to, focus on your people, give them the right training, and make sure they have the right skill sets to be able to do the job. Then you have to make sure that you have the right processes in place to support the job. And then you look at the technology that's going to support those two other things. And we think that's fundamentally broken, especially in an AI world where you need to flip the process. You need to look at technology as something that is going to revolutionize your business. And so the only way for you to actually see transformation is for you to really understand what the technology is now capable of doing, because it's changing and it's not what it was 2-3 years ago. And so the possibility of what you're able to achieve with these AI tools is vastly different than you were able to do only a couple of years ago. So to your point, it's, there's a fundamental shift happening in your processes and your people and like what they're able to achieve. And so we preach to companies now is the old way of doing things was people, process, technology. Now we need to flip it, because you need to understand what the technology is capable of doing, with proof of concepts, with pilots, with design partnerships, working with smaller companies, working with startups to really understand what is possible. Once you understand what's possible, then you go look at your processes and understand, hey, what are the processes that, now knowing what technology is capable of, what do we need to change? Oh, we can automate these processes. Oh, these are where AI still can't really do the work. We understand that. But you can't do that work without already understanding what AI is capable of doing and what it's not capable of doing. So then you go into process. Finally, then you get to people, because people are going to be the hardest, and you want people to be able to understand what's happening, understand what the transformation is going to look like. And you need to be prepared from a technology standpoint to be able to answer any questions. You need to be prepared from a process standpoint to already understand what processes are going to change, to then bring your people along so that it's an easy journey for them to understand everything else. So that's how you really test out and bring new technologies to a company. From there, then you go back to the drawing board, and now for you to scale that technology within a company, then you can definitely follow the people, process, technology approach, where you then want to scale that. You want to train your people on the new process with the new technology. Then you want to make sure, hey, are these processes working day to day? Is anything broken? Do we need to change anything? And then you finally have that sign off of, hey, we can deploy this more globally. We can deploy this across our entire business. And so, the key today is you need to test things quickly. You need to fail fast. You need to really explore what the capabilities are, because one, they're changing every day. And you even mentioned, right, like things are changing really quickly. Things are changing fast, and leaders are sort of overwhelmed with all of those changes. It's the job of startups to help these companies understand what's possible, understand what's coming down the line, and prepare them for what's coming next, so that they don't get caught off-footed. So that's what's been super, like, part of my job that I've come to love, and I didn't know it was going to be part of my job, is just helping these leaders navigate something that is very complex, is changing very quickly, and just at the end of the day, helping them go through that process to make sure that their company and their people are set up for success.
Yeah, and speaking of people, who specifically, like job title or like industry specific, like who do you serve and who would benefit the most from Procuro and reaching out and connecting with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So what our ICP, and the folks we usually talk to first are chief procurement officers, either head of procurement, vice president of procurement. Sometimes that falls under chief operating officers. Sometimes that falls under chief supply chain officers. But essentially, we're a purpose built tool for procurement teams to do their best work. So that's where we usually start. Then we have other stakeholders that are involved in the process, and so CEOs and CFOs also get tremendous benefit from our product, because we affect the bottom line. And so we're able to give them more resources to be able to do more with less within their business. So procurement has a financial aspect to it. So we bring CFOs along on the journey and really connect the dots between, hey, this is how the tool improves procurement, and this is how procurement improves your the financial health of your company. And for CEOs, our value prop is around risk reduction. It's around compliance. It's around making sure that your team has the right tools to be able to give you the visibility you need to run your business in the best way possible. And so we start with the chief procurement officer. That's what we're building for. That's who we're building for procurement teams. And then we bring other stakeholders along on the journey as well.
That's great. Well, if you're a leader in procurement, reach out to Antonio. Or if you know of a leader in procurement who's like scrambling to figure out how to use AI, I know that you guys are meeting constantly with these folks. And do you do like demos, or like how is that process? Do you have a webinar that you send to people? Do you have like a wait list? Like, what's the current status of how people can get involved?
Yeah, so we have a wait list open that is just on our website, but feel free to contact me. We do demos, and then we also offer a proof of concept. And so we come in and we deliver value to companies within the first 30 days. So no more, months and months of implementation, of getting things right, making the right connections. We're able to already find value, and a lot of times pay for ourselves within the first 30 days. And so that's what we want to focus on. We want to just deliver value and a tangible business outcome on the first time we engage with one another. We do an on-site onboarding, hands-on with your team directly, one-on-one, to be able to show you the value right away. And then from there, we have a whole implementation process that we work directly with companies on, that then we use to be able to expand the value prop across the rest of the business. So first 30 days, we're able to deliver you value right away, and then we just grow from there.
Amazing, amazing. And I want people to get to know you a little bit more as well, because you have an awesome background. You have like the dream background that an investor wants when they're thinking about a founder, because of the experiences that you have, and both you and your co-founder. And I wanted to ask you, what's been one of the most difficult things about going from Microsoft to your own company?
Yeah. So, I mean, I made a lot of sacrifices to be able to do this. So I gave up on, unvested stock at Microsoft. I had to move from Seattle to Miami back home, to live with my brother, to be able to make ends meet in the beginning. And so, I think the founder life is just something you need to understand that is going to come with a lot of struggle, but you got to embrace the struggle and embrace the journey. We take it day by day, one step at a time, to figure out where we're going. And at the end of the day, you only have so many problems that you're able to solve as a small team. What helps and what's been super valuable, and like I wouldn't be able to do this without them, is my co-founder, who, we've been friends for 8+ years, live together, travel together. We know each other extremely well, and we know we're in it for the long haul. And so finding the right person to go and on this journey with is absolutely one of the most important parts that
Huge.
you need to do. And like people say it all the time, but I think it's underestimated really how critical that is. And there's going to be setbacks. There's going to be times when things are just not looking great, but you never know when the next big milestone or the next big opportunity comes up. You just need to be prepared for it. So yeah, tons of stories in there. How we actually had a third co-founder, they dropped out, and so we had to scramble to figure out how we would move forward. Eventually, I think it was for the best. It was a personal decision, and we all agreed with it, and it made sense for everybody. But at the time, it was a big hit on the company, and we didn't know how we would go move on from there. We also didn't have much funding, and there were points where we didn't know what would come next, and then we're able to get secure funding from Forum Ventures out of New York City, who has been like the most supportive VC ever. And we're going through their accelerator program, and that just catapulted us to a different level. And we're a couple of weeks away from probably running out of money. And so it's a journey. We are just embracing it, taking it day by day, trying to enjoy this moment right now, because it'll never come again. And so it's just making sure that, like, one, you know where you're getting into, and you need to be prepared for that mentally. And then two is just finding the right people around you. It doesn't even need to be your co-founder, but just the right people around you that can give you the support that you need to just keep going and to not give up, because the only way you die is if you give up.
It's true. That's the mantra. That's, I mean, entrepreneurs, like, it's amazing how uncertain times can feel, but if at your core and like in your heart you feel that there's opportunity and there's something there, like, never quit, like, never give up, never, never, never give up. And all it takes is one contract, pun intended, because that's what you guys do, but like, all it takes is one, and you can get momentum going. And I thought about like what you just shared, and I appreciate you sharing that, because not a lot of people have the courage to share that. But I gotta ask, like, when you signed on that first customer, man, how did that feel after all the hours, the blood, sweat, and tears? Like, what was that like?
I mean, it was fantastic. Jade was my CTO was here in Miami at the time. We celebrated, and then it's sort of like a quick moment, and then you figure out what's next. I mean, that story is really funny as well, just because I was in sales mode, and my whole being was like, how do I sell this thing? How do I sell this thing? How do I sell this thing? And then finally, when you get your sales, you're like, oh, oh crap, what do I do now? Now you pivot to customer success. Right now, it's like this whole other world that I wasn't even like looking at or trying to learn about. And now it's all about just making that customer happy. And so that's what's super funny is, you wear so many hats as a CEO, and you sort of learn what those hats are as you're going. And so, from one day to the other, I went from sales mode to customer success mode, try to get in contact with as many people that I knew that were experts in customer success, that knew about it, that had done it in the past. And then you're just, you need to stay curious. You need to be open to learning. You need to just be humble and like go out and try to get as much help as you can to then not lose that first customer that you have. Right. And so that's the most important thing at the time. So, you celebrate, you take the wins, but then it's like, okay, what comes next? And you just need to, stay in the game, and just continue to build that momentum. Like you said, I think that's the most important thing I've learned, I think, from startups is how do you manufacture momentum? How do you manufacture, even if you don't have it, how do you create that sense of momentum within the team so that you keep a really great product velocity, you keep motivation high, you keep the team engaged? How do you build momentum in your go to market motion, your sales motion? How do you use one conversation to leverage onto the next conversation? So how do you take the learnings from one and already feed it into your next conversation with a customer so that your sales deck, your pitch is just continuously improving until you start feeling that traction and you start feeling something that's repeatable and resonating, and then you continue to build on the momentum. And then finally, when you go out and fundraise, how do you build momentum in your fundraise process? How do you create FOMO? How do you get investors engaged? What is the pre-work that you want to be doing before you go out to fundraise? That's going to, be able to generate that momentum, even though you may not have any. How do you manufacture that in a way that, will help your company take you to the next step? I think at the end of the day, it's just about momentum and keeping the cadence and keeping that pace, because slowing down is also what's going to kill you at a startup. Like slow down, energy falls, and everything just goes downhill from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep it rolling, man. Leaders and founders, they set the tone. They really do. Leaders set the pace, they set the tone. And man, just keep running, keep getting after it, because I have a sense like you guys are just one or two more breakthroughs away from really this catching fire and spreading. So I'm so pumped to support you guys, and keep us, your community, like updated on what you need, and how you need help. There are too many founders who are working in silos and not and if they just like put a hand out and just said like, hey, I need some help, you know you'll find, what I found is like people are a lot more willing to help than you think. So like keep the train running, keep the engine rolling. And if you're in procurement, connect with Antonio. Go to procuro.ai, PROC, how do I, PROCURO.ai. I want to make sure I get that right. Procuro.ai. And say hello to the team and check out what they're doing and see if they can make an impact. Antonio, I want to leave the last few words to you.
No, hey Shane, look, I appreciate everything you're doing. You've been a tremendous support and proponent of us, and helped us out, think about problems, be excited about AI. I think you're a fantastic voice that's just driving a lot of this AI conversation and negotiation and procurement and a lot of these functional areas. So hey, props to you for the great words, the great podcast, and bringing small companies on. I think it's underestimated how one opportunity can always help a small company, versus any big company. It's these small things that, like you said, like we said, build momentum and generate momentum. And, especially if you're doing something impactful, you're doing something with actual business results, actual value. It's just getting the information out there, and people are looking for a little bit of guidance during these times. We want to be sort of that helping hand, making the right connections to the people that do have the problems that we're trying to solve. At the end of the day, that's all it is. Humans helping humans, trying to figure out where we can go help each other out, in whatever way we can.
Yeah, and I loved what you said earlier about how these big companies should look to up and coming startups for what's coming next because you're innovating and it's just a matter of time. So this has been an amazing conversation. And so share this episode with someone who you know in procurement that is maybe frustrated or looking for ways to embed AI. I think that's like everyone at this point, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thanks again, Shane.
All right, scene. Awesome, man. Well, good stuff. I'm going to click end stream here, but we should still be able to talk. Let's see.